In the grand living room of the mansion, my father, Richard Cole, had built from the early days of his career. He sat upright on a high-end leather sofa, his posture stern like he was leading a board meeting. The crystal chandelier cast light on the powerful creases across his face, his silver hair combed neatly. Beside him was Evelyn Lynn, his first love, who had just returned after so many years apart, wearing a soft smile, but with eyes that sparkled with calculation. She wore a form-fitting silk dress, like she'd just stepped out of a high-society cocktail party, showing no trace of fatigue from a long flight. My mother, Charlotte Shaw, who used to be the queen of this lavish life my father once wrapped around her, now sat curled beside me on the opposite couch, clutching my hand so tightly her nails dug into my skin. Tears streamed down her face, her once beautiful features now smeared with mascara, her trembling voice breaking through the heavy silence. "Richard, I don't want anything. Just let me take Naomi." She bowed her head, her shoulders shaking, like her entire world was collapsing in this very moment. I could feel the warmth of her hand, but inside me was a boiling rage, simmering, ready to erupt. My father didn't even look at her, just gave a small nod. Evelyn leaned forward, sounding gentle but laced with a quiet manipulation. "Charlotte, Naomi will have a better future staying with Richard. You should think about what's best for her. Don't be selfish." She placed her hand on my father's knee, a familiar gesture that made him glance over at her with an approving look, the corner of his mouth lifting in rare satisfaction. My mother broke into louder sobs at that, her cries echoing through the vast living room where countless extravagant parties had once been held. "Naomi's all I have left. I don't want anything else." She squeezed my hand tighter. I swallowed hard, trying to keep calm. Before she could say another word, I stood up abruptly and pulled her toward the corner of the room, near the window that overlooked the garden she used to tend to, flower by flower. I clenched my jaw and hissed in a low voice, trying not to let anyone else hear. "Mom! What do you want me to do? Say it! You want money, right?" My tone was sharp, angry, but underneath it was pain. Pain from seeing her this weak, this broken. I wanted to protect her, to make her strong again, not let her beg like some defeated woman. She froze, her tear-filled eyes staring at me like she didn't recognize the daughter she'd raised. "Naomi," she whispered. I was seething, ready to snap, but I took a deep breath and held it in. My mind raced with plans, anything to keep her from enduring more. Take Richard's money, travel the world, flirt with some hot young guys. Wouldn't that be a better life? I blurted out, my voice full of sarcasm. But deep down, I meant it. I wanted her to know there was life beyond this betrayal. She stared at me, wide-eyed, and even though she was nearly 40, in that moment she looked so innocent, like a girl in her 20s who had never known how cruel the business world my father lived in could be. "But what about you?" she asked, voice shaky, still gripping my hand like she was afraid I'd vanish. I felt my heart soften a little, but my fury at Dad and Evelyn still burned. I pushed forward, speaking low but firm. "Don't worry about me. I'll stay here, keep living like a spoiled rich girl. I'll use Richard's money to take care of you later." I had already been tracking his bank accounts, his investments, through an app on his phone. He didn't know I'd learned how to hack his password from friends in college. Mom hesitated, her lips parting. "But..." She glanced over at Dad and Evelyn, her eyes filled with conflict. The memories of their luxurious marriage now turned into a chain around her. I didn't let her finish. I turned back abruptly, putting on the practiced fake smile I'd learned from Dad at business parties, where everything was a negotiation. I walked toward the table, my voice calm but cutting. "Dad, let's talk seriously, for once. About the settlement for Mom." In my mind, the numbers were already clear. Not just cash, but shares, properties, everything she'd need to walk away without ever looking back. Act 2. My father, Richard, leaned back into the soft Italian calf leather sofa, holding a teacup in one hand. His face, carved with the hard lines of decades in business, now lit up with genuine interest, his sharp eyes scanning me like I was a promising young partner at a shareholders' meeting. He set the teacup down with a soft clink that echoed through the silent living room, then spoke, voice deep and calm but full of authority. "Go on." His composure only added pressure to the room, as if this were just a high-stakes chess match, not a family tearing apart beneath this lavish roof. I could still feel the shaky warmth of my mother's hand gripping my shoulder from behind, but I didn't turn around. Instead, I smiled softly. On the surface, gentle as a spring breeze, but inside, unshakable steel. I took a deep breath and began listing the assets like I was presenting a business proposal, voice slow and clear so every word would etch itself into the minds of everyone present. First, the Manhattan penthouse. Transfer it to Mom. I paused briefly, watching Dad give a small calculating nod. Then continued. Second, 10% of the company's founding shares. I don't think that's too much. Evelyn frowned slightly, but I stood firm. Finally, a trust fund, and even $10 million. Behind me, my mother, Charlotte, gasped, the sound sharp like someone had her by the throat, one hand trembling over her mouth, eyes wide in horror and disbelief. She had never imagined her daughter would calmly demand such colossal things like ordering a salad, as if it were her right, not a desperate battle for the rest of her life after 17 quiet years of hardship. I could hear her heartbeat racing behind me, but this was the only way she could walk out of this mansion with her head held high. Evelyn didn't look too great either. Her complexion paled under layers of flawless makeup, lips pressed tight to contain her fury, but she still forced a gentle tone. "Naomi, you're still young. You don't understand. This affects your father's company greatly." She leaned in closer to him, gently stroking his arm like she needed grounding, her eyes sparkling with fake concern for the new family she was dreaming of. I looked at her, eyes full of undisguised contempt, and said, "This is about my parents' divorce and asset division. Why the hell is an outsider like you even talking?" My voice rose slightly, emphasizing the word outsider, turning the air in the room to stone, leaving only the ticking of the Swiss clock on the wall. Evelyn immediately flushed, cheeks red like she'd been slapped across the face. She opened her mouth to argue, but only stammered, "I," before falling silent, her hands clutching her silk dress so tightly it wrinkled, her eyes fixed on the cold marble floor where her reflection looked smaller and more pathetic than ever. My father waved his hand with a calm authority, a familiar gesture he used to shut down chaos in boardrooms, silencing Evelyn completely. Then he turned to me, eyes now gleaming with genuine interest, lips curling up like he was enjoying a top-tier negotiation. 10% is a bit much. The house and trust fund are fine. His tone was steady, but I heard the test behind the words, like he wanted to see if I'd dare push further. "No," I answered instantly, not backing down an inch, my voice firm, my posture rigid, hands resting on my knees to steady the faint tremble. "The shares are the key point. Mom followed you for 17 years, sacrificed a lot. And now, just because of a mistress, you want to throw her out? At least give her a proper ending." I paused, locking eyes with him before continuing, voice lowered but sharp. "If not, it leaks. And people will say Richard Cole's just a jerk who dumped his wife. Then we'll see how the stock price holds up." Every word I spoke was like a poisoned dart, aimed at what he valued most: his reputation and business empire, the image of a model entrepreneur now at risk of being torn to shreds by public opinion. My father choked on his own breath, as if something had caught in his throat, face flushing with a mix of fury and shock, exhaling heavily like he was about to explode. But no rebuttal came. He just stared at me, eyes conflicted. I stared back, completely calm, even though inside I was boiling with rage. What a joke. He thought he could just throw my mother out like trash. We held in that deadlock for a moment, the tension in the room tight as a wire, broken only by my mother's ragged breathing and muffled sobs. Dad stayed silent, thinking, his eyes drifting over to Evelyn, now curled up small in her seat, then back to me. Then suddenly he laughed. A loud, unexpected, almost joyful laugh echoed through the room. "All right, I agree." His sudden cheer threw me off. A little, my eyebrows raised instinctively, suspicion rising inside. Why so easy? Was this a trap? But I kept a poker face, waiting. Dad went on, still sounding relaxed on the surface. "The shares, the house, the trust fund, they're hers." Then came the twist. "But with one condition." He paused, his sharp eyes locking onto mine, raising a finger and pointing directly at me like he was sealing the final clause of a contract. "You must stay." I knew exactly why my father insisted I stay. No one understood the way his mind worked better than I did. No matter how much he claimed to love Evelyn, in his eyes, I was the perfect heir, straight A student, social skills shaped by years of watching him, and a talent for reading people with just a glance. And besides, Evelyn couldn't have children. But his reasoning didn't matter anymore, because that condition aligned perfectly with what I wanted. By staying, I remained the heir to a billionaire father, with an unlimited credit card, and invitations to every luxury gala. It meant I could spend his money freely. It meant I could continue to support my mother, a foolish woman who gave up everything for love, who became his wife with all her heart. A perfect loop, I thought to myself, a quiet smile forming like the blueprint had always been there. But Mom refused to play along. She yanked me behind her suddenly, body trembling but eyes sharp, glaring at Richard like a mother hen protecting her chick, voice rising high and fierce. "No! I don't want the money. I just want my daughter." She gripped my shoulders tight, tears flowing again, her face smeared with mascara but full of fire, like she was willing to lose everything just to keep me by her side. "Mom, please get a grip." I quickly pulled her aside and whispered, calming her down while clutching her hand tightly. "Mom, listen to me. I'm not giving up. I'm just infiltrating, you get it?" She blinked at me, eyes red and confused. "What?" she stammered, voice trembling. I lowered my tone, coaxing gently. "Just take the money. Go far away. Start over. Your life can be even more beautiful than before." I paused, watching her swallow hard, then added, "And I'll stay." "He feels guilty, so he'll treat me better. Loosen his grip. Whatever he gives me to spend, I'll pass it all to you. Consider it a refund. And this setup, it's insanely sustainable." I winked, voice thick with mischief. Mom nodded vaguely, her eyes flickering, lips moving as she weighed it all in her head. I knew I needed a final push, so I went for the kill. Besides, as long as I'm here, he and his picture-perfect first love won't have a single peaceful day. I'll be the constant little reminder that once, this house belonged to a kind, beautiful woman who can never be replaced. I laid it on thick, painting her as the forgotten queen. Her eyes wavered harder now, shifting between me and Richard. And finally, with my silent urging, she bit her lip and nodded. I smiled, satisfied, turning back toward Dad with quiet confidence. The agreement was signed quickly. Richard's lawyers moved like lightning. Charlotte signed her name with trembling hands, her fingers ice cold, eyes locked on the words like they were a sentence. In that moment, she officially became a wealthy woman, holding over $100 million in assets. The penthouse, the shares, the trust fund, all locked tight like a private vault. She set the pen down, her shoulders relaxing, tears rolling down her cheeks. But this time, they carried relief, like a bird finally set free. The moment my mother stepped out of the house, Evelyn wasted no time showing off her lady of the house performance. She stood up from the leather sofa with a bright, fake smile, her silk dress flaring out like she was on stage. "Naomi, from now on, we're family." She gave me a gentle pat on the shoulder, a gesture meant to be affectionate. She even went down to the kitchen herself to prepare dinner for me. Vegetable salad cut into flower shapes, grilled beef with red wine sauce, steamed veggies, and a main soup dish. Evelyn wiped her hands on the apron, beaming, and placed a spoonful of soup in front of me. "Naomi, try this lobster bisque." She eagerly pushed the plate closer. I looked at the dish, beautifully plated in a white porcelain bowl, cream floating like soft clouds. But I couldn't feel a thing. My stomach twisted at the absence of that familiar spice aroma from my mother's cooking. As foolish as she was in love, Mom's cooking was absolutely max level. I grew up on authentic Italian food she learned from her private chef. My taste buds raised to be picky. I could tell if she added even a pinch too much salt. I set my chopsticks down with a soft clink, took out my phone, opened the food delivery app, and said calmly, "One deluxe truffle mushroom pizza, double cheese," then added, "and a large assorted seafood sashimi set." I placed the order right there in front of her. Evelyn's smile froze like a wax figure, her red lips pressed together, eyes wide in disbelief, still holding the spoon mid-air as if paralyzed. "Naomi, I spent so much effort making all this," she said, trying to keep her voice gentle, but it cracked a little, her face turning red with embarrassment. I cut her off right there, my voice cold but polite. "Evelyn, what's the point of my dad paying for a chef if you're going to cook? Honestly, what you made, I'm just not used to it." I shrugged, eyes sweeping across the table. Finally, Evelyn's expression cracked. Her anger showed clear as day, brows furrowed, cheeks flushed, hand clutching the napkin until it wrinkled, but she bit her lip and stayed quiet, eyes glistening like she was about to cry. My father walked out from the study just in time, his heavy footsteps echoing across the wooden floor, and he caught the scene right away, frowning deeply, his voice stern. "Naomi, is that any way to speak to Evelyn?" I didn't argue, I just shrugged. "Then eat up, Dad." I turned away, not bothering to look again. Of course, my father sided with his first love. He immediately sat down, picked up a piece of beef, and put it in his mouth to show support, chewing slowly under Evelyn's hopeful gaze. But after 2 chews, he stalled, face twisting awkwardly, and finally said, sounding embarrassed, "Evelyn, from now on, maybe let the chef handle the cooking." He set the fork down, wiped his mouth with a napkin, avoiding eye contact with her. Evelyn just nodded quietly, muttering, "Hmm." Right then, the food I ordered arrived. I turned on the projector in the living room, the big screen playing my favorite movie as the smell of melted cheese and truffle filled the air. I relaxed into the soft leather sofa, enjoying my dinner, the crunch of pizza blending with the action scenes on screen. The next morning, sunlight crept through my bedroom window. As I made my way downstairs, my steps light on the gleaming wooden staircase, I heard Evelyn's voice ringing from the living room, instructing the housekeepers. "Switch these curtains to beige. They'll match the sofa better." She pointed at the white silk drapes, her face all cheerful. "This flower vase looks old. Replace it with something more elegant." She lifted the antique porcelain vase. "And Richard's study, too. He likes it tidy. All those messy decorations, clear them out." She stood there like the rightful lady of the house. But every single thing she wanted to change was part of what my mother had carefully arranged and loved most. I gave a faint smile and walked over. "Mrs. Thompson, leave the vase right where it is." "Don't touch it." The housekeeper glanced at me, then at Evelyn, her face conflicted, hands hovering mid-air with the vase. Evelyn stepped closer, speaking gently. "Naomi, the decor in this house is a bit outdated. A little change might freshen the mood." She placed a hand on Mrs. Thompson's shoulder. I leaned lazily against the staircase railing, not even pretending to be polite. "I feel just fine, actually. I'm used to the way my mom arranged things. If you're not, well, you're welcome to move out." "Naomi Cole!" My father's voice boomed from the dining room, full of warning, as he stepped out holding a crumpled newspaper, his face tense. I turned around and raised my arms innocently. "Dad, every corner of this house was decorated by Mom. She just left. And you two are already rushing to erase every trace of her. Don't you think that's a bit much? Evelyn quickly clung to my dad's sleeve, her voice soft. Don't blame Naomi. It's my fault. I just wanted the house to feel a bit warmer. And with that, her eyes reddened like she was the one being mistreated. Of course, Richard melted instantly, patting her shoulder, then turned to me. Naomi, Evelyn means well. From now on, let her handle matters in the house. I smirked. Oh, really? So I guess that means my matters too, huh? My dad nodded instinctively. I pulled out my phone, opened the luxury shopping website, and held it up to Evelyn. Evelyn, which color do you think I should get for this bag? Or should I just get all the colors? She froze. I smiled sweetly and continued. And for the charity gala next week, I'm planning to bid on that diamond necklace. What do you think is a reasonable price? I held the phone up close, face all innocence. Dad said from now on, you're in charge of all things at home, so I guess that includes managing my spending too, right? Evelyn's face turned completely green. My father's face showed clear embarrassment. His cheeks flushed red like he'd been slapped, his brows furrowed tight, mouth opening as if to scold me. But the words caught in his throat, one hand crushing the newspaper into wrinkles. He wanted to explode, but I had already blocked every exit, my voice sweet but razor sharp. You're not planning to go back on your word, are you, Dad? A promise is a promise. No takebacks. I flashed him a radiant smile, eyes sparkling, standing there like the perfect, well-mannered daughter, gently reminding her father of the business ethics he always preached. My father let out a deep breath, exhaling like a storm about to break, shooting me a glare before pulling out his crocodile leather wallet from his blazer pocket and yanking out a sleek black card, his voice tight but defeated. Whatever you want to buy from now on, use this. The limit's enough for you to buy 10 diamond necklaces. He shoved the card into my hand, his fingers trembling slightly, part fury, part indulgence. Evelyn, standing next to him, stared wide-eyed at the card like it was her sworn enemy. I gladly accepted it, letting my fingers glide across the cool surface of the plastic. Thanks, Dad. See, Evelyn? Dad still loves me the most. I turned to her and gave a mischievous wink. Don't worry, Evelyn. Just focus on taking care of Dad. I'll handle my stuff myself. I gave the card a playful flick in front of her face, then turned and headed up the stairs. Behind me was Evelyn's furious, frozen smile. From that day on, I officially began my glorious career of spending. Today, a limited edition bag at the Fifth Avenue boutique, Hermes sparkling under the store lights. Tomorrow, bidding on rare jewelry at Sotheby's, the auctioneer's gavel echoing through the room. The next day, renting out an entire 5-star hotel to throw a party. Receipts rained down like winter snow into Dad's inbox, each one with at least 6 digits. The constant notifications on his phone annoyed him every morning. He called me several times, his tone shifting from strict to worn out. At first he barked, "Naomi, that's enough!" But over time, his voice grew tired. "Naomi, be honest. Are you trying to get back at me?" I could hear his sigh over the line, the background filled with the rustle of paperwork in his office. "What are you saying, Dad?" I choked out a few fake sobs, voice dripping with theatrical sadness, fully in character. "Compared to the mansion you gave Evelyn, how much have I even spent?" I paused, sniffled. "I've never even been apart from Mom before. She just left, and now I don't even have the right to spend a little money." Then I added, voice cracking like a tragic heroine, "Figures! Only Mom ever truly cared." Now that she's gone, I feel like... My father interrupted, defeated. "Fine, fine. The company's yours in the future. Spend what you want. Just be reasonable." I instantly switched tone, sweet as sugar. "Love you so much, Dad." Hung up the call, then beamed at the boutique sales associate, standing behind the glittering glass counter. "Bags stacked behind me," I said. "I'll take all the new arrivals, please. Have them sent to my mom's big apartment." She loved those bags the most. I imagined her opening the door, her eyes lighting up with surprise, the gorgeous handbags like little messages of comfort from afar. I was swiping Dad's card at the designer boutique counter when my phone suddenly buzzed like crazy in my bag. Mom's name lit up the screen. I thought she was calling to cry about missing me again, like always, so I'd already prepared some comforting words. Instead, what came through the line was pounding music, deafening bass like a nightclub, mixed with the sound of young men shouting and laughing, glasses clinking together. Naomi! Can you hear me? Mom's voice was unusually hyped, warped by the EDM blaring in the background. It sounded like she was smack in the middle of a wild party. I nearly dropped the phone. Mom, where are you? My heart pounded as my brain spun up a dozen worst-case scenarios. At my new store, she shouted back, giggling like she'd just won the lottery. You're a genius, Naomi. Hanging out with a bunch of hot guys is just the best. She dragged out the last words dramatically, followed by applause and cheers in the background, leaving me frozen in place inside the boutique while the sales associate stared at me like I'd lost it. My head was spinning. How did Mom move this fast? She just signed divorce papers yesterday, and now she's opened a whole store? I immediately had the driver follow the location she sent. When I arrived, the shop sign was so flashy, it stopped passers-by in their tracks. Shaw's Sanctuary, wellness lounge for women, in glowing neon under the late afternoon sun, minimalistic design in soft pastels, glass doors reflecting people walking by. It looked like a high-end spa. I pushed the door open, and the soft chime rang sweetly, the scent of lavender oil drifting through the air. But the sight inside nearly knocked me out. I had imagined some tacky boyfriends for hire joint full of overpowering cologne, sleazy red lighting, and tight leather couches. But nope. The whole place was cozy and tastefully decorated, with cream white walls and hand-painted artwork, fluffy duck feather pastel pillows everywhere, comfy chairs, tiny bookshelves filled with paperbacks, and fresh flowers bursting with color. Just looking at it made you want to curl up and nap. Acoustic music floated gently instead of that loud EDM, and the so-called boyfriends for hire turned out to be a crew of good-looking guys in themed uniforms, each one styled differently. One in a sharp suit with a crisp tie, another in a schoolboy look with a white button-up and jeans, one even cosplaying as a K-pop idol with highlighted hair and trendy glasses. They all smiled professionally, moving gracefully between tables like upscale hospitality staff. And there was my mom, standing in the center of it all, wearing a neat mint green manager's uniform, buttoned-up blouse, holding a digital notepad, fully boss mode. Her hair was in a confident high bun, her face glowing, no trace left of the tears she once shed. Leo, Ms. Veronica at table A, just said her stocks dropped. Go comfort her. She pointed decisively, and the guy in the black suit nodded and dashed over. I stood there, speechless, mouth wide open, staring at my mother. Was this really her? The same woman who used to flip through cookbooks and romance novels in the kitchen all day. The same heartbroken woman who cried whenever my dad betrayed her. Now she stood there like a queen. She was the queen now, the boss of a wellness lounge for women, living proof of the saying, after divorce, some women just glow the hell up. My mom finally spotted me through the crowd in the shop. Naomi! You're here! She quickly made her way toward me, arms wide open like she was about to pull me into a hug. The scent of lavender essential oil radiating from her made the air even calmer, her cheeks glowing with excitement. No trace left of the weeping, hunched-over woman she once was. I stepped closer, still dazed, glancing around at the fluffy throw pillows stacked everywhere, and the attractive young men moving gracefully between tables like top-tier service staff, my voice stammering in disbelief as my hand absent-mindedly touched the bookshelf nearby. Mom! This place is... It's a wellness lounge, sweetheart. My mom lifted her chin proudly, standing tall like a businesswoman pitching a billion-dollar idea. It's for women who have money and time, but no joy. She spun lightly in place, her fingers painting the air like she was sketching a flawless business model, eyes sparkling with passion. Here, women can spend money in exchange for being heard, supported, and happy. She stopped and looked at me, waiting for my reaction. Well, not bad for a business mind, huh? She asked, voice full of playful confidence, tapping my shoulder gently, face beaming like a kid showing off her first drawing. I looked at her glowing with joy and freedom, and suddenly realized maybe I'd been underestimating her all along. She wasn't the weak woman I once pitied. Maybe she was never just the naive wife who was sheltered. Maybe she'd just never bothered to shine while trapped in Dad's lies, suffocated by hollow parties and a fake luxurious life. Now she'd bloomed like a late-blooming flower. And sure enough, my mom's wellness lounge went viral, way beyond anything I imagined. Crowds of women poured in from morning to night. Unlike shady bars with red lights and heavy perfume, my mom, the woman who had devoured romance novels for years, stacking books high in our penthouse with stories about charming men rescuing lonely girls, understood the emotional needs of wealthy, isolated women. She turned her staff into a diverse dream team, delivering top-tier personalized experiences, charismatic life coaches with warm smiles ready to listen for hours, dedicated fitness trainers with tanned skin and sculpted bodies leading candlelit yoga sessions, magnetic motivational speakers with deep voices, delivering speeches like TED Talks, gym bros teaching women how to punch stress into punching bags. Whatever women needed, emotional support, affirmation, even just a comforting hug, it was all here. From the naive wife who once lived under a man's shadow, my mom transformed into a queen, guiding women's emotional healing. She strutted around in heels, clicking confidently on the floor, commanding her staff, profits soaring. She even FaceTimed me nightly to flaunt her financial reports. One day, she was featured in an exclusive financial magazine. The cover? My mom, standing strong, microphone in hand, mid-speech, with the bold golden headline on a black background. Goodbye to wealthy families. Now I'm queen of my own empire. The magazine was glossy, the scent of fresh ink rising as I casually placed it in the middle of our old living room, right on the table everyone sees first when walking in, beside the vase she once loved and a few faded family photos. Sure enough, the moment Dad and Evelyn came home, they saw it. Dad walked in with his heavy briefcase, eyes scanning the room, then freezing when he spotted the magazine. Evelyn followed behind, and when she saw the cover, her expression changed in all kinds of dramatic ways. Dad picked up the magazine, hand slightly trembling, eyes fixed on the image of Charlotte Shaw, the woman he once treated like a decorative object on a shelf, now soaring, glowing with a victorious smile and fierce, liberated eyes. His face darkened, cheeks flushing with a mix of rage and regret. The sense of losing control was something a man like him couldn't stand. His brows furrowed into a hard line, his breathing loud and heavy like a raging bull. Ridiculous! Opening a place like that, shameful to the Cole name, he snapped, voice echoing through the spacious living room, crumpling the magazine and tossing it onto the table. I leaned back into the soft leather sofa and replied coldly, Dad, you're divorced. How is Mom still connected to the Cole name? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. His hands clenched into fists. Evelyn quickly grabbed his sleeve, her fingers gripping the fabric tightly, her eyes flickering with worry and calculation. Don't be mad. Maybe Charlotte's just trying to prove herself. Naomi, you should talk to your mom. That kind of business? It's not exactly respectable. I burst out laughing, my voice ringing like a challenge. What's not respectable about it? My mom runs a legal business, pays her taxes. What's the issue? I leaned forward, eyes narrowing at her. Evelyn, or do you think women should just stay home and never have a career of their own? Evelyn stuttered. No, I didn't mean that. Oh? Then what did you mean? I stepped closer, my voice low and heavy, making her take a step back. My dad, seeing his first love shaken, rushed to intervene, his tone stern. "That's enough, Naomi! She's an adult. Watch your mouth!" I raised my hand in mock fear, voice thick with sarcasm. "Ah, I see. So next time Evelyn says anything, I'll just keep my mouth shut to make you happy." With that, I rolled my eyes in disdain and casually headed upstairs, leaving behind a room thick with tension, like a storm had just passed. My dad's long, defeated sigh echoed behind me. My mom's lounge was getting way too popular, so of course it started rubbing some people the wrong way. Gossip in the upper-class circles spread like a virus. From afternoon teas to private group chats, whispers laced with jealousy echoed behind her back every time she showed up at an event. That day, I got home from school and saw Evelyn having afternoon tea with a middle-aged woman. I recognized her instantly. Veronica Lee, ex-wife of pharmaceutical tycoon James Harrington, who had been at the center of last year's explosive divorce scandal. She stirred her tea with a silver spoon, porcelain cup in hand, her gaze full of disdain. "Evelyn, Charlotte's truly embarrassing. Opening that kind of shop, hiring a bunch of male escorts, completely ruined Richard's reputation." Her lips curled into a cruel smirk, her tone sharp and shrill with venom. Evelyn let out a sigh, hand gently covering her mouth as if lamenting. "Don't say that. Maybe she had no other choice." Being a divorced woman, living alone, it's not easy. She shook her head, her eyes shimmering with faux pity, though the corners of her mouth curled up ever so slightly with calculation. I turned to head upstairs, not wanting to hear more, when Veronica suddenly chirped with a voice sweet like artificial sugar. "Naomi, you're home! You've grown into such a beautiful young lady." She flashed a sycophantic smile, teeth shining white under her red lipstick, eyes narrowed with fake warmth. "But Naomi, about your mom's shop. Don't follow in her footsteps, okay? A young lady needs to protect her reputation. It's important." She sipped her tea, voice full of condescension, fingers grazing the string of pearls around her neck. I paused midway up the stairs, turned slowly, and gave her an innocent smile. "Veronica, I heard Mr. Harrington's company just IPO'd last month, right?" I tilted my head. "And when you got divorced and walked away with just 3 houses, that's because you thought your reputation mattered more than keeping equity, right?" I stressed the last word, locking eyes with her. Veronica's face immediately went pale. Back during her divorce, her ex had tricked her into believing the company was just an empty shell, so she foolishly took a few properties to cut ties cleanly, proudly signing the papers. But then he turned around and took the company public. He's now a billionaire. Evelyn quickly scolded me under her breath, one hand on Veronica's shoulder in consolation. "Naomi, is that any way to speak to Veronica? Apologize now." She shot me a warning glance, her eyes flashing with anger. I widened my eyes innocently, feigning surprise. Did I say anything wrong? Or is Veronica actually still bitter about those shares? I shrugged, still smiling. Veronica was so furious, her lips trembled, her mouth pressed into a bloodless line, unable to speak, hand crumpling her napkin into a wrinkled mess. I couldn't care less. I started whistling as I strolled casually upstairs, but through the cracked door behind me, I heard it loud and clear. Veronica's voice dripping with venom, low but sharp like a snake. "Evelyn, look at that mother and daughter. Neither of them any good. You can't let them keep winning like this." Evelyn still spoke softly, but her tone now had a cold edge, her voice dropping into a conspiratorial whisper. "Don't worry, I'll handle it." She patted Veronica's hand gently, her eyes glinting with something calculated and cruel. I stood behind the half-closed door, the corner of my mouth curling into a smirk. I had a gut feeling Evelyn was about to make a move, so I called my mom to warn her ahead of time. But on the other end of the line, her voice was as cheerful as if she were on vacation in the Maldives. "Don't worry, sweetheart, I've read enough romance novels to spot a two-faced woman's tricks from miles away." She burst out laughing, her voice rising confidently above all else. "Tell her to come at me." I stood there, mouth half open. All right then. Clearly I was overreacting. My mom didn't need saving anymore. She was the superhero now. And just as expected, a few days later, Evelyn struck. But she didn't go in guns blazing with scandals or lawsuits. Instead, she started poaching from the inside, quietly headhunting talent with enticing emails sent through back channels. Evelyn arranged a secret meeting at a high-end cafe with the two most valuable members of the lounge. Max, the brooding motivational speaker with a deep noir film voice, slicked back hair, and eyes like midnight. And Leo, the bright, charming type with a dimpled smile and explosive K-pop idol energy. She offered them triple their current salary to join a prestigious new club funded by Veronica, complete with thick contracts and upfront signing bonuses. Honestly, Max and Leo were the soul of the place. They had massive followings. Clients booked out weeks ahead just to see them, 5-star reviews pouring in like rain. If they left, the wellness lounge would definitely take a hit, both in reputation and revenue. I was restless with worry, stormed straight up to my mom's office on the top floor of the lounge, pushed the door open, and found Charlotte Shaw, my mother, lying back with a face mask on, watching a rugged vibe fitness trainer crack a walnut using only his chest muscles in a tank top. Evelyn Lynn's trying to steal your team. Do you think Max and Leo will jump ship? My heart was pounding, eyes fixed on her, waiting. My mom calmly peeled off her mask and motioned me over, her voice smooth like she had the whole chessboard in view. Come here, sweetheart. She pointed to a thick folder on the desk. I picked it up and my eyes widened. Pages full of charts and contracts, each one outlining crystal-clear personal development plans for every key employee, from training to networking opportunities. She'd even promised equity in future company branches, like a personalized investment fund. Max, for instance, an MIT architecture graduate, dreamed of becoming an architect. Mom leveraged her network of wealthy clients to secure him an internship at a top design firm, under the mentorship of a legendary architect, complete with a handwritten recommendation letter. Leo, on the other hand, loved fitness and dreamed of owning his own gym. Mom funded his international training certifications and found him a prime downtown location, blueprints and lease agreements ready to go. As for the others, those who wanted to be idols were connected to secret auditions at talent agencies. Fashion enthusiasts were paired with renowned designer mentors. Aspiring cafe owners were given pre-scouted spaces and supplier lists. I stared at my mother like I was looking at a reigning queen. She smiled, confidence glowing under the soft desk lamp, shoulders square like a true CEO. No, I'm not just their boss. I'm the mentor of their dreams. She gently tapped the folder, her voice calm but powerful. Evelyn can offer them money. I give them a future. She winked, her eyes gleaming like she already knew every trick in the book. I looked at the woman in front of me, the light radiating off her confidence and strategy. It hit me. Who said my mom was just a naive trophy wife? She was clearly Charlotte, the queen of the new era, rising from the shadows into the spotlight, commanding her own empire with a triumphant smile. Everything unfolded exactly the way my mom had predicted. Not only did Max and Leo firmly turn down the offer, they even shared the story during an internal team meeting. Evelyn's first tactic failed, and ironically, it only helped my mom strengthen her team's unity and deepen staff loyalty. After that failure, Evelyn got nasty. Very quickly, a local marketing account published a scathing exposé with a clickbait headline. Shocking! The city's most famous wellness lounge is actually a place where wealthy women buy pleasure. Young men turned into playthings? The article included a few blurry, secretly taken photos, along with suggestive captions that implied the lounge was engaged in illegal activity. Even though no name was mentioned outright, anyone familiar with Shaw's sanctuary could immediately tell who it was aimed at. I was so furious I nearly crushed my phone. While I was still seething, my mom's phone rang. It was Lopez, the CFO of a major corporation, and a hardcore fan of the puzzle corner at the lounge. She called directly. I've seen the post. The company that published it is supposed to finalize a contract with us next week. Leave it to me. You don't need to worry. But that wasn't the end of it. Taylor, the daughter of the supermarket tycoon, also called. Then came Sarah Vaughn, Jessica Miller, Emma Carter, Sophia Lopez. One phone call after another, each one standing behind my mom, each one hitting back where it hurts most, the pockets of dirty media. These were women who had found healing at the wellness lounge, women with money, influence, and real power. Their networks, their resources, their reach were far beyond anything Evelyn could ever dream of. I stood frozen, mouth wide open, watching my mom calmly answer call after call, casually receiving waves of support and politely brushing them off like it was all just business as usual. When she finally hung up, she turned to me with a triumphant little wink, confidence radiating from her every move. "See, sweetheart, I provide emotional value, and emotional value is a rare resource. Now someone's trying to cut off their joy. You think they're going to take that lying down?" Less than 24 hours later, the entire exposé vanished from the internet like it had never existed. Platforms wiped all traces at lightning speed, and search results quickly redirected to other news. The City Exposé account was permanently banned, the red lock symbol lighting up the screen, and the media company behind it issued a long-winded apology on its official website, bold font blame placed entirely on a clumsy intern's mistake, along with promises of an internal review and compensation for defamation. Evelyn, defeated again, miserably. But that wasn't the end of it. After the drama, my mom's Shaw sanctuary got even hotter. Revenue tripled. Her computer screen showed charts spiking upward in bright green, and she had to switch to a VIP membership model with sparkling member cards and app-based appointment bookings. Even so, the waitlist was already full, for 3 months ahead. Charlotte Shaw, the business queen version, was skyrocketing. She appeared on a financial podcast with a silver mic in front of her confident voice echoing through the feed, and the lounge's fan page hit 1 million followers overnight. My dad finally couldn't sit still anymore. He flipped through the business section in his study, eyes fixed on the revenue figures, where my mom's success was indirectly mentioned. Back then, when she first opened the lounge, he scoffed and called it just some childish project. But now, seeing the profits climb daily on financial news, something inside him began to shift. Unease, discomfort, something he couldn't quite name. His brows furrowed deeply every time Evelyn so much as mentioned my mom. Especially during a recent client reception, when one of his key business partners, Mr. West, a retail CEO, clapped him on the back and chuckled with a deep, knowing tone. "Richard, your ex-wife? Wow, she's a force of nature." He winked and gave my dad's shoulder a firm squeeze like they were sharing some kind of man-to-man life lesson. "Honestly, letting a woman that smart and beautiful go? That's a real shame." Mr. West shook his head regretfully and moved on to mingle, leaving my dad standing there with a forced smile, fingers gripping his wine glass until his knuckles turned white. Evelyn fared even worse. 2 ambushes had backfired, leaving her humiliated. She sat in front of the mirror in their bedroom, makeup smudged from frustration. Under the glow of my mother's success, Evelyn was being pushed out of the inner circle of elite women. Tea party invites became fewer. Even Veronica started distancing herself, replying to texts with cold, "I'm busy" excuses. Inside the Cole house, Evelyn was struggling more and more, like a fish gasping in a glass tank. She tried to take down one of the paintings my mom had chosen for the wall. Chef Thompson shook his head and said, "Mr. Cole already instructed not to change anything else in the house." Evelyn stood there, holding the frame, face flushed red. She tried to make soup for my dad. The private chef turned his back and said, "His meals are managed by the head chef. Please just rest." One night, I went down to the kitchen for water and accidentally overheard them fighting in the living room. It was the first time I'd seen Evelyn completely lose it. Gone was the gentle, composed act, replaced by wild screaming, messy hair flying. "Richard, what do you even see me as? Who's the real lady of this house? You regret it now, don't you?" You're still thinking about Charlotte, aren't you? Her voice cracked open with rage. My dad, overwhelmed, his face red with tension, waved her off in frustration. Can you just stop being unreasonable? Unreasonable. Evelyn let out a bitter, raspy laugh, eyes burning. Yes! I'm not Charlotte. I didn't open some ridiculous little lounge. I didn't charm every rich woman in this city. I just loved you quietly, stood by you. But do you still love me? She moved closer, hands grabbing at his shirt. My dad was speechless, voice tired. I can't even talk to you right now. He turned and walked into his study, leaving Evelyn behind, sobbing uncontrollably. I watched the whole thing, nearly bursting into laughter. If they'd known this would be the ending, they probably wouldn't have played their little games back then. First love? Please. First love is only beautiful when it's out of reach. Once you've got it, you realize it's nothing special, forgettable, ordinary. And my mom? She stopped playing the love game a long time ago. She was busy, with Zoom meetings on a massive screen, tracking growth metrics, and planning the expansion of her empire. It seemed that last blow had knocked Evelyn into silence. She retreated into the bedroom and stayed there, which, frankly, brought a welcome peace to my life. I have to say, my mom truly understands the market. The wellness lounge kept rolling out new services, each one hitting the exact pain points of modern women, like arrows straight to the bullseye. Tutoring for chaotic kids with a straight-A student type, male teacher, who guided them through homework with games. A workshop on identifying and dealing with two-faced people, taught by a psychologist who broke down real-life case studies with animated PowerPoint slides. I once witnessed a powerful woman, Harper, CEO of a tech startup, dressed in a sharp black suit, drop a chunk of cash to book a fitness trainer, bad boy style, named Jaden, a muscle-packed guy in a tight tank top, to pretend to be a sleazy business partner across from her in a private room, just so she could yell at him nonstop for 3 hours straight without repeating a single insult. Afterwards, she immediately signed up for a $100,000 VIP membership. I'll be back next time, she beamed, patting Jaden on the shoulder, eyes sparkling. At this point, my mom was affectionately known among elite women as Wellness Sis, the city's #1 emotional concierge. Lately, my dad had started asking, "How's your mom been lately?" His tone tried to sound casual, but the way he stirred his spoon in tight, anxious circles gave him away. Still doing great, just paid her monthly taxes, 7 figures even, doing her part for the city's GDP. I replied while munching on crispy toast. Is she managing all right? Doing all that alone, he muttered, furrowing his brows, setting his cup down, eyes staring wistfully out the window at the lush green garden. Oh, she's not managing, I shrugged. She's hiring a lifestyle assistant now. Must be handsome and able to drive both yachts and private jets. I gave him a sly sparkle in my eye. He went silent for a moment, then finally burst out, his voice high and irritated. This is madness. What the hell is she trying to do? I just shrugged again, stood up, and left the table, leaving him sitting there alone. Because let's be real, a man might be able to stop loving you, but he'll never be able to handle the fact that his ex-wife is living a life far more radiant without him. It seemed like this time, Evelyn had really stopped. She started acting obedient again, tending to my father every day with care, fussing over the smallest details. And my father, still easily softened by the sight of her, gradually warming up in his attitude toward her. Everything was peaceful until 2 months later. Evelyn began vomiting and feeling constantly drowsy. Our housekeeper, Thompson, leaned in and whispered to me at the corner of the kitchen. The way she's been looking lately. I think she might be pregnant. Mrs. Thompson glanced toward the bedroom door, her eyes a mix of curiosity and concern. I smirked coldly inside, but on the outside, I remained calm, expressionless. That night, Evelyn finally couldn't hold it in any longer. She wore a cream-colored silk nightgown that clung to her figure, looking fragile and delicate like a wilting flower, draping herself onto my father's chest on the large sofa, gently caressing his chest like an 18-year-old girl, and speaking in a trembling, sweet voice. Richard, I'm pregnant. My father was watching the financial news on the big screen TV. His hand paused mid-air with the remote, turning slowly to look at her. His face froze under the blue light of the screen. His eyes held no joy as Evelyn had imagined, only a cold silence, his brows slightly furrowed. But she didn't notice and kept going, gently stroking her belly. I'm really happy. Finally, we have a child of our own. As she said that, she turned to look at me, sitting across from her on the opposite side of the sofa, her eyes gleaming with a provocative glint under curled lashes, like she was declaring victory. I'm the real winner. I was lounging back on the sofa, slowly peeling an apple. Upon hearing that, I looked up. Congratulations, Evelyn. And congrats to Dad, too. Soon there'll be another heir. We should throw a party to celebrate. I sliced a crisp piece of apple and popped it into my mouth. My father didn't respond. He set down the remote, his face solemn. Are you sure? His voice was low, emotionless. I'm sure. Thinking he didn't believe her, Evelyn quickly pulled out a hospital report from her bag, holding it up like it was gold. I went for a checkup today. The doctor said I'm already 6 weeks along. My father glanced at the paper, barely giving it a look, then casually tossed it onto the table. He turned back to her, his gaze so cold it froze the entire living room, the air growing instantly heavy. I've already made it clear to you. For me, having Naomi is enough. His voice was low and firm, each word like a nail being hammered in, his face completely emotionless. The smile on Evelyn's face slowly stiffened, her lips curling awkwardly, hand frozen mid-stroke on her belly. Richard, I know you love Naomi, but this is our child. Don't you really want this? Her voice cracked, hands clutching his shirt in desperation. My father laughed, but it wasn't a laugh of joy. It was pure contempt. Want it? Want what? A child who may not even be mine, trying to stake a claim on my estate? The moment those words landed, the entire living room seemed to freeze. Evelyn's face turned pale in an instant. Richard! What? What did you just say? This is your child! Her voice cracked, shrill and trembling. My child! My father shot up, his eyes cold and sharp, as he looked down at her like she was trash on the side of the road. His face flushed red with fury, finger pointed straight at her face. Evelyn, I was in a car accident 10 years ago. Since then, I've been unable to have children. His voice was low and deliberate, each word like a gavel hitting the bench, echoing through the silent room like a judge's final verdict. I bit into another slice of apple, calmly watching the show unfold. Evelyn wanted to get pregnant so she could become the legal wife, but unfortunately, she forgot to check if my dad was even capable. She stood frozen. No, no way. You're lying, aren't you? You just don't want this baby, so you're making this up. She shook her head, hands wrapping around her belly, like protecting some kind of treasure, her voice breaking with desperation. My father let out a dry, bitter laugh, cold as wind that cuts through skin. Let's just say I'm lying. Either way, you can leave my house today? He turned his back on her without sparing another glance and gave a small wave toward the security guard outside. Evelyn collapsed to her knees. No! Richard, please let me explain. She clung to the leg of his pants, her fingernails digging into the fabric so hard her knuckles turned white. My dad shoved her off with force, eyebrows tightened in pure disgust, and spat just one cold word. Get. Out Evelyn was dragged out by security, her sobs echoing through the hollow mansion, fading slowly into silence. The world finally went still. I finished my apple, tossed the core into the bin with a soft clink, and walked over to where my father stood, still sighing. My voice was calm. Dad, I never interfered with who you chose to marry, but honestly, your taste in women has always been absolute trash. After Evelyn was thrown out, The atmosphere in the house felt strange, like a thick fog hanging over the massive villa. My father stayed locked in his study most nights. I didn't care. I figured grown-ups had to deal with the consequences of their own choices. And my mother? Her career soared. She threw herself into business meetings with partners, her eyes lighting up as she read growth charts. She invested in a near-bankrupt tech company and transformed it into Shaw Heart, a platform specializing in emotional support and mental wellness for women. The app shot to the top of the download charts within its first week, hit 5 million users in 3 months, secured major funding, and became one of the year's most promising social platforms. On top of that, she launched a co-branded product line called Shaw Sweetie, shimmering gift boxes filled with lavender-scented candles engraved with the logo, face masks, affirmation cards, mini idol figures. Every item sold out fast. She didn't stop there. She acquired a small Hollywood film production company, turned the dusty office into a buzzing creative hub with fresh scripts, and began funding movie projects centered on mature women, all based on screenplays written by the expert who's read over 10,000 romance novels, Charlotte Shaw herself. My mother was no longer the naive wife once sheltered beside Richard Cole, quietly smiling at dinner parties. Now she was the queen of her own empire, stepping confidently into finance magazine interviews under a storm of camera flashes, appearing at high-level conferences on lit-up stages in tailored suits, shaking hands with major industry players in boardrooms with city view glass walls. Every time she showed up, she was elegance personified. Her hair pulled into a sleek bun, her presence radiant like a star, red dress hugging her curves, her confident smile turning heads. She was once a pearl dulled by blind love, curled up in a mansion waiting for her husband to come home late. But a pearl is always a pearl. All it takes is to wipe off the dust of misguided affection, and it gleams brightly again under the light of freedom. On the day Shaw Heart officially went public, my mother, chairwoman and founder, radiated under the spotlight in her sharp tailored suit, her face glowing under the relentless flashing of cameras, her confident smile sparkling like diamonds beneath the neon ticker lights as the stock price soared green. I stood beside her, watching the blinding bursts of flash across the vast hall, overwhelmed with emotion as she gently touched the brass bell like she was stroking a dream come true, her breathing steady and calm, no longer the woman who once curled up in the shadows of a broken love, but a queen who had finally found her crown. Applause thundered through the crowd like crashing waves, pulling me into this new beginning, where everything felt full of hope and freedom. The celebration that followed was held in a lavish banquet hall, long tables draped in pristine white cloth, champagne flutes glittering under candlelight, soft jazz weaving between the cheerful chatter of investors and powerful women. My father arrived, slipping through the crowd in a neat gray suit, though his face was gaunt and worn, hair at the temples now stark white. Once a proud tycoon, he had become a lonely middle-aged man, dragging heavy steps, dark circles under his eyes searching. He walked straight to my mother, his hand clenched like he was clutching his last hope. He looked much older than before, shoulders slumped, breath short as he stopped in front of her, and with a cautious, almost timid voice amid the music said, "Charlotte." My mother, mid-conversation with investors, turned slowly at the sound of his voice, her eyes polite but distant, as if looking at a stranger from another lifetime. The smile on her lips remained, but it had lost its warmth. "Mr. Cole, how can I help you?" That Mr. Cole stopped him in his tracks. "Charlotte, I made a huge mistake. I didn't know how to value you. Please, will you give me a chance? Could we, at least, talk about starting over?" I was seated nearby, just about to speak up with a quiet smirk ready, but my mother smiled gently, raising her glass of champagne, toasting toward him from a distance. "Mr. Cole, you misunderstand. I've never blamed you. In fact, I should thank you. Thank you for betraying me back then. Because of it, I realized that leaving you made my life shine 1,000 times brighter. As for getting back together? She chuckled softly, eyes gleaming under the candlelight. I'm sorry. She turned to me then, her eyes warm, her hand gently reaching for mine. Let's go, sweetheart. We walked away together, chatting as we went, her laughter light as she shared everyday wisdom about the future. Neither of us looked back at the man standing behind us, not even once, because that's how life works. You move forward. With every new road opened under the sun, with simple acts like raising a glass or leading your daughter to meet friends, you carry the quiet breath of acceptance, of a beginning so fresh that the past dissolves into the vastness, and the heart finally rests in gentle freedom. And really, who looks back? When the light ahead is waiting, whispering through the breeze that life is a journey forward, and peace lives in each step of freedom. Because that's how life works. You move forward. Who would ever look back?